Yeah.
Folks, I'm here with Qasim Rashid, Esquire, a man who is in Chicago. Apparently a hellhole. Look, you see fire and brimstone everywhere. I don't know how Qasim can survive. I mean, just chaos. Qasim Rashid also is on Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid Substack. Please subscribe to it. And the framing of today is a quote that Donald Trump, the aging Bulgarian criminal with said to the press. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. And the answer is hell no. And folks, I've been using the word fascist. I've been using the word authoritarian. I've been using the word martial law. If you've been following me for years, I don't know what more you need to see. Donald Trump, when Zelensky was here, was like, you can suspend elections during wartime. We'll see about that. He's a man who's giving out Trump 2028 hats and showing off the merch of European leaders. He's a man who promised to unleash the National Guard against the quote enemies from within in October, and he has. He has armed 2,000 National Guard members in D.C. D.C. is under siege for no reason, even though it has record low crime in 30 years, terrorizing innocent folks in communities in LA with the National Guard, the military, and ICE agents. He has threatened now Chicago, the hellscape of Chicago, where Qasim's from. But interestingly enough, not Louisiana, where crime has spiked, not these red states where crime has spiked. The six of the former Confederate states have volunteered to send their National Guard members, even though FEMA just today warned that we might have a Hurricane Katrina-like event. And the National Guard folks came out and helped those people, but they're literally willing to sacrifice their own residents to support Donald Trump and his authoritarian agenda. Donald Trump also is against mail-in voting. Donald Trump, after getting Texas Republicans to gerrymander / steal 5 seats, is openly saying, I want 100 seats. He's not doing well. He's down in the polls. Stephen Miller in July said what's happening in LA is an insurrection. Insurrection. Oh, yeah, the Insurrection Act that allows the president to unleash the military and federalize the National Guard, last used in 1992 in LA. Folks, what we're witnessing is a quick march towards martial law. And I also want to remind people that $180 billion in the big, beautiful bill for billionaires was given to ICE. ICE agents are now number 10,000. They're masked, they're emboldened. He has his private Gestapo, and he has gone through a purge in the military and law enforcement and the government. And he has attacked Chris Christie. He has unleashed the Gestapo against John Bolton. He today signed an executive order going against free speech, against flag burning, threatened yesterday the free press. This is just off the top of my head. I don't know what else you need to see, folks, but Qasim has some distressing news because, like I've always said, fascists come for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, if you're white, or even if you're a veteran. Qasim, I yield the floor to you.
I co-sign everything you said, and I think we need to recognize that this man is not an aspiring fascist. He is a fascist. He's made the decision that he is not going to leave office. I don't think it's unrealistic or paranoia to say that we're not going to have midterm elections. I think we need to work under the assumption that we're not going to have midterm elections with what he's trying to do with the redistricting of gerrymandering Texas. And I just remind folks that there's a very clear point you need to make every time you have this conversation. Under Biden, Democrats voted unanimously to end gerrymandering, to get dark money out of politics. Republicans voted unanimously to protect gerrymandering, and now they're acting upon that. And I, for all the flaws of Gavin Newsom, commend him for fighting fire with fire, getting it on the agenda in November to vote and to get it done. I need every Democratic governor to do the exact same thing. We outnumber MAGA nut jobs. Blue states outnumber them. We have more congressional districts in blue states. If they want to play this game, let's play this game and take it to fruition. And so let's just be very clear about that. But your point about if they come for immigrants, they're going to come for all of us. We already saw what's happening with Kilmar Abrego Garcia after deporting him, letting him languish in months in a torture camp in El Salvador. He was finally brought back, forced by the Supreme Court. The Trump administration brought him back. And now he checked in for his immigration hearing as he's supposed to do. And Wajahat, as you know, ICE picked him up and said, no, now we're going to deport you to Uganda. Another trumped up, nonsensical charge, denial of due process of law. And of course, we're seeing the concentration camps used to hold Japanese Americans, now used to hold Latino Americans. History repeats itself. And earlier today, I received a distress email from one Melissa Chaudhry, who is the wife of Mohammed Zahid Chaudhry. And the reason why that name should matter to you is because Mohammed Zahid Chaudhry is a disabled veteran of the National Coast Guard. He has served 20 years as I'm reading here, a Washington National Guard veteran was arrested Thursday during his final citizenship interview at the USCIS service in Tukwila in Washington State. He's now being held at the Northwest ICE Processing Center in Tacoma. As of Friday afternoon, officials with ICE had not explained to Mohammed Zahid Chaudhry's family why he was detained. He is being kept in solitary confinement. This is a disabled veteran who is in a wheelchair. He's in a windowless room with artificial light, 24/7 solitary confinement. He's a veteran. He is at the citizenship interview, meaning he did everything he was supposed to do. And he went above and beyond. He's put his life on the line to serve this country. And he is in prison right now with unexplained charges. Wajat, this is fascism. It's
Yep.
here. If you're waiting for like the big neon flashing sign, you missed it. It's already here. And I'm going to put in the chat a couple of links that Melissa Chaudhry, the wife of Mohammed Zahid Chaudhry, asked me to share with folks, where you can send petitions, you can help raise for his legal defense. We're trying to connect her to the right lawyer in this space as well. But folks, I guess my opening remarks are, this is the time where if you ever wondered what you would have done during the civil rights era, what you would have done during the Nazi era, what you would have done during the Civil War, this is the time to step up and do whatever you thought you would do in those situations, because we need all hands on deck.
All hands on deck, 10 toes down. Democracy is an active sport and needs active engagement, folks. And if you think they're not going to come after you, they're going after disabled veterans. If you don't think they're going to go after you, they went after John Bolton. If they don't think they go after you, he threatened Chris Christie, the man who helped train him. He was the first guy on the Trump train, but before Ted Cruz, before Marco Rubio, before Lindsey Graham. Remember that? I keep the receipts. But since then, he's become a never Trumper. So Donald Trump, even though he forgets that he's the man who hired Jerome Powell, and even though he forgets the word groceries, and even though he forgets basic facts, even though he openly says, I don't know, what's the Congo? He remembers all the grievances. It's perpetual Festivus. They're going after Chris Christie, John Bolton, Miles Taylor, Chris Krebs. What was Chris Krebs' crime? He did his job and said, hey, the 2020 election that Donald Trump lost, it was a free and fair election. So he signed an executive order threatening to investigate him for treason, folks. Chris Krebs, right? He's going after all his enemies, but he's giving fellatio to Vladimir Putin, rolling out the red carpet. He's going against Zelensky. He's going against NATO. He's going against our European allies. Folks, they're going against doctors. They're going against experts. This is full-fledged frontal assault on our democratic institutions. And I wanted your take on this because I tweeted this earlier today. And I want to read my tweet. I did this in the morning right before we did Democracy Issue. This is what I wrote. Yeah. It went quasi-viral, and someone, and I'll tell you who, well, I won't give the name, but I'll tell you someone who emailed me in response to this. I said this on Blue Sky and on Twitter. Quote, Trump is going full fascist early because he is weak and unhealthy. I think his inner circle realizes this, which is why they're trying to get as much done quickly and go full authoritarian for J.D. Vance to have as much power as possible. There is a Republican, never Trumper, who is the spouse of a high-ranking individual who served in the George W. Bush administration. That person emailed me about 5 minutes after that post and said, "I'm going to quote this person, okay? What this person said. Your Blue Sky post. I agree, but I rarely post outside my lane. Hope you are doing as well as possible. Greetings from occupied DC." Qasim.
I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, I think you're right. And I don't know if it's the wishful thinking in me, but my Instagram feed is full of people who are experts in, cardio surgery or cardio health, saying that these abrasions we're seeing on his hand are signs of heart failure. Somebody posted a picture of Queen Elizabeth 2 days before she died with the abrasions on her hand, comparing her to Trump, and saying, who knows what's going to happen. Look, I think at the end of the day, Trump has never been the sole problem. He's as our friend Dina Baylor says, that he's not an aberration; he's a manifestation of what the Republican Party has been for a long time. And given that J.D. Vance is bought and sold by Peter Thiel and a host of other billionaires, I have zero doubt that if Trump should return to his maker, that somehow things won't get worse. I think they actually will get worse. And I think that he has moved the Overton window enough, and he has a base that is fascist enough at this point. I mean, let's be honest. If you, and I tweeted this out a minute ago, and it's already going viral. If you think that a white woman who was convicted of child sex abuse and child sex trafficking is innocent and honest, but a Latino father who they were forced to release because they couldn't find any evidence against him is somehow guilty and a liar, then it's not law and order you're defending, it's white supremacy and child abuse. That's
Absolutely.
where we are as a country right now. And this is where, I'm going to express my grievance to the Democratic Party establishment for not leaning into what we have to offer. I was talking to David Hogg about this a couple of days ago, that it's actually infuriating to me that 10 years after Trump, the best argument that the establishment has come up with is Trump's a fascist and we're not. That's not a winning argument. It didn't win in 2016. It barely won in 2020, and it didn't win in 2024. I'm trying to understand, and this is where I'd love to get your take, is when we're seeing the success of people like Zoran Mamdani, we're seeing the success of who's the Muslim Somali Muslim candidate in Minneapolis. We're seeing the success of David Hogg in the DNC. Why does the establishment keep beating down these young, dynamic candidates and electeds who have a proven model of success? What are they so afraid of? And why do they keep shooting themselves really in the face with these situations?
So you're talking about Omar Fatah, the
Yeah.
mayoral candidate, who's Democratic
But, yeah.
Socialist, and who's very popular. And the Minnesota Democratic Party, just meeting the moment, revoked their endorsement of him
Yep.
because one of his aides said something and apparently was like pro-Hamas, even though it wasn't. But I haven't gone too deep into it. But why would you revoke the endorsement of an ascending young mayoral candidate who most likely still might become the Minneapolis
Yeah.
mayor? And why have Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, as of just literally this weekend, when asked to endorse Mamdani, still can't come around to endorsing
Yep.
Mamdani. Gillibrand still hasn't, even though Mamdani is ascending and Mamdani is most likely going to become the next mayor. And it's intertwined. It's intertwined, I think, to the two litmus tests that Democratic establishments will fail to, if you will, meet. I was talking to Crystal Ball about this a year and a half ago. It's not a year and a half, an hour and a half ago. Sorry, folks, it's been a long day. But Crystal kept talking about Israel Palestine as a litmus test. It's connected, folks.
Yep.
And another litmus test, I think, and I added this and she agreed with me, is corporate money, the oligarchy, the 1%, right?
Yes.
The fundamental problem in America that is the use and abuse of our institutions by the richest to benefit the rich at the expense of everyone else. They all suck at the same teat, and they refuse to actually, take the lane that's wide open and say, all right, we're going to fight the oligarchy. We're going to fight the oligarchy. We should tax billionaires. The 1% are against the 99%, the majority versus the elitists. Zoran Mamdani's message. Make America affordable again. No billionaires, but if they exist, I want to work with them to make life affordable for everyone. Fighting the oligarchy tour of AOC and Bernie that is so successful. The anti-establishment message that Donald Trump through bullshit ran on, but also Bernie Sanders ran on, right? The anti-establishment message that is making people vote for Donald Trump and AOC. The anti-establishment message that has made some Trump voters support Mamdani. A wide open lane that shows you time and time again will help you get the masses. It'll help you get Democrats. It'll help you get Republicans. It'll help you get independents. It'll help you get disaffected voters. But they refuse. They refuse, Qasim, because they realize this will mean that our money pipeline will end. And so I told Crystal, and I'm going to say to you, I want your thoughts on this. When it comes to these two issues, Israel, Palestine, and saying no to corporate money and going against the oligarchy, the corporate centrist establishment leadership would rather burn the country down than actually reform to meet this moment. And I give you Joe Biden. Joe Biden was an ideological Zionist who was perfectly fine destroying his legacy and the Democratic Party and Palestinians for Netanyahu. I know Democrats hate hearing this. This genocide, and it's a genocide, it has to be named, could not have happened without Joe Biden's administration giving it a green light. It's Biden and Trump, both. Furthermore, when it comes to Mamdani, you have young Jewish Americans saying, we're for Mamdani, not in spite of, but because of his stance on Palestine. You have the overwhelming majority of Democrats saying, we're not supporting Netanyahu. We do not support this war. We do not support this genocide. And the Democratic establishment, even now, as of this weekend, as of literally yesterday, is saying to the Democratic base, F you. F you, shut your mouth. And they're going after Mamdani, let's be honest, because of the two issues, because of a stance on Palestine and because he's against the oligarchy. Your take.
Well, and the data backs us up, by the way. I'll start with Biden. A lot of folks think that Biden just recently became, this sycophant for Netanyahu and Israel. There's a great piece written by Peter Beinart, one of the most prolific Jewish scholars in the country, in the world, about Joe Biden. He wrote this back when Biden was elected and pointed out that under the Obama administration, it was Biden who strong-armed Obama and Hillary Clinton when they were going to put their foot down on condemning the illegal settlements in Israel. Biden is the one who prevented that from happening and enabled Netanyahu even more. And it was Biden after October 7th, knowing full well what Netanyahu was about to do, went and embraced him and hugged him and gave him a clean, basic slate to say, do whatever it is you want. And now we're seeing Matthew Miller come out and admit that we had a hostage deal secured. And it was Netanyahu who kept on changing the boundaries over and over and over again. Hamas had agreed to all the terms, and Netanyahu kept on throwing in. And by the way, this isn't just Matthew Miller admitting this. These are Israeli hostage negotiators admitting this as well. This is not conspiracy. It's well documented from multiple sources. And meanwhile, you had Biden flat out lying to the American people, saying that he's working like hell to get. No, you weren't. You weren't at all. And it's a disgrace and it's a shame. You had your Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, look at two State Department reports confirming that the Israeli government was violating the Leahy laws, which forbid using U.S. weapons to commit war crimes. You ignored your own State Department, not one, but two reports, and you testified before Congress that they were following the law. You lied to Congress. This should be held in contempt of Congress. This man should be facing trial for these, grotesque lies. And now you have the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, which is watching Aguilar, I think Anthony
And
Aguilar. I can't remember his name.
we just interviewed him. Me and Francesca interviewed him a couple of days ago. Anthony Aguilar, who's the whistleblower of the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, who said basically these are like white Christian nationalist zealots
Right.
who are completely complicit in a genocide. And these food aid distribution sites are kill zones where the IDF is just killing unarmed, starving Palestinians.
More than 1,500 so far. And CBS has did another interview with somebody saying that these weren't Israeli soldiers only. These were American contractors working for the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, killing them. So all that to say, it's no wonder that 92% of Democrats now say, stop funding this man. Stop funding this madman. And it is that much more offensive that the Democratic establishment is, as you said, saying, F you, we're not going to listen to you. And, Wajahat, think about this. 92% of Democrats want to protect abortion access. 92% of Democrats want to have universal background checks. 92% of Democrats want to overturn Citizens United. Could you imagine any Democrat running and saying, you know what? Abortion access is not that important. I'm going to go ahead and ban abortion altogether. Gun safety, not that important. We need more Uvaldes. Corporate money in politics, who cares? Let's bring in more dark. They would never do that. But on this issue, 92% of your base is telling you, don't do the thing, and you're still doing the thing, and you're wondering, why do I have a 26% approval rating? So folks are asking me, and I constantly get this, well, how do we fight back? I am going to be publishing a piece.
Qasim, before you get to the fight back, because I think it just underscores everything you and I just said. And for those who haven't followed the news, this is why Qasim and I are here. Today, folks, Israel on live television bombed Nasser Hospital. It killed civilians. It killed a journalist. All right, bombed a hospital, Nasser Hospital. And this is again Gaza, where there's not that many hospitals left. All right. As people were rushing in, as civilians and journalists were rushing in to the rubble to save people, Israel then bombed them on live television. It was so egregious that Benjamin Netanyahu, in a rare public apology on Twitter, writes this: Israel deeply regrets the tragic mishap that occurred today at the Nasser Hospital in Gaza. Israel values the work of journalists, medical staff, and all civilians. The military authorities are conducting a thorough investigation. Our war is with Hamas terrorists. Our just goals are defeating Hamas and bringing our hostages home. What more do you, and I tweeted, how can anyone still support this? Qasim, all that is bullshit. This
Yeah,
all lie.
100%.
63,000 people have been killed. That's an undercount. Israel has killed doctors. It has killed nurses. It has killed United Nations members. It bombed, World Central Kitchen staff, Jose Andres' staff. Journalists have been killed. Folks, it literally has there's more child amputees in Gaza than in any other place on earth. 150,000 people have been injured. Phase 5 starvation. Now, B'Tselem, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International are calling it a genocide, and he has the audacity to say that, literally gaslight us to our face, and friggin' Republican politicians, because Mike Johnson, the Christian nationalist who supports this, by the way, he did a recess because he didn't want to vote for the release of the Epstein file. So you know where these Republicans went because they were so busy, folks? They went to Israel to meet this war criminal. And last month in July, when this war criminal came, Chuck Schumer was there, took a bipartisan photo. Cory Booker was there. One of the Nevada senators were there. Chris Coons was there. You had a couple other folks who were there. Adam Schiff was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Klobuchar, Schiff, Padilla.
Klobuchar was there, smiling with this war criminal, and you still don't have. You only have 11 Democrats, I think, who were able to use the word genocide. The one good news is you had 26 Democratic senators plus Bernie Sanders vote for the first time, a majority of them, to stop sending aids to Israel. It should have been all 47,
100%.
but it was about 27. But like, how much more do people need to see, man? How much? But this happened just today, folks. Sorry, Qasim. Sorry for my.
I saw no. I co-signed. I mean, I saw a statistic with Jahat that I'm like, this has to be BS. Let me look up this data. And the statistic was that in the last 22 months, the Israeli government has killed more journalists in Gaza than journalists killed in the 27 years combined of the Vietnam War and World War II. So I looked it up. In the 27 years of World War II in Vietnam, 132 journalists were killed in those wars. 132 over 27 years. In 22 months, Wajahat, conservatively, more than 260 journalists have been killed by the Israeli government while enacting an international media blackout. And so just think about this for a moment. Remove Israel from the conversation for a second. Let's say some country, XYZ country, was attacking a region, killed 260 journalists, and said, oh, don't worry, they're all terrorists. You say, okay, well, let us go and verify. And they say, nope, we're going to ban every international outlet from going and reporting on this independently. And the only time we'll let any journalists in is when they are guided by our military, the same military that's killing these 260 some journalists in this war-torn region right now. Who would protect or defend that country's right to do that? If that was Russia, we would all say, are you insane, Putin? No one's going to trust you. There is no way in God's green earth anyone would trust that kind. But this is exactly what we're being asked to do with Netanyahu. And people asking, how do we fight back? It's going to start with us funding the people that are running for office and in office who recognize this injustice for what it is. I'm going to be putting out a post later on this week where I've identified the members of Congress who have called this a genocide, who have voted to block more arms to Netanyahu and a few other candidates who are running for open seats or seats that we can flip blue, who will also recognize this as a genocide. And folks, I know we all want to get corporate money out of politics, and we need to step up either with our time or with our treasure. So these are people who I hope you volunteer for their campaigns and help them get elected. And if you have the financial means, I hope you donate. Even a couple of bucks goes a long way, but it becomes that much easier for these folks who are in office right now to continue to speak truth to power when they know that they have 10,000 people willing to donate $5 each, 50,000 people willing to donate $10 each, donating to their cause. So that's going to be my call to action for those of you who feel the rage that we face. And these are all people I've donated to personally as well. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to ask anyone to do something that I'm not doing myself. This is how we're going to climb out of this trench, one elected official at a time, one election at a time. It's going to be long. It's going to be difficult. But Wajahat, this country has overcome fascism before. It's overcome apartheid before. I think we can do so again. I'm eternally hopeful for that.
Yeah, and people might say, well, Wajad and Qasim, how come you're not talking about the Republicans? How come you're so harsh to Democrats? Because at least with the Democrats, you can move them. We
Yes.
know how terrible Republicans are. We just call them
Right.
fascists. We know how terrible Trump is. We know about white Christian nationalists. We know about Mike Huckabee. We know about Christians United for Israel. We know about Stephen Miller. With Democrats, you can at least move them. And when Qasim is saying, about you using your vote and your dollar, they're paying attention, folks. Trust me, they're paying attention. The fact that you had 27 of them vote, Qasim and me are old enough. And if you told us 5 years ago this would happen, we're like, get the F out. Maybe when we're
Right.
like old men. But they're listening because they look at the polls and look at the numbers. They're like, "Oh shit!" But now this is the come to Jesus moment, if you will. This is the soul of the party because they love that AIPAC money. They love that corporate money, and plus, many of them are dyed in the wool Zionists, like Joe Biden. Like they believe this. They have dehumanized Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims. They lump us all together.
Right.
It's that war on terror mindset, and so they've been told one story and one story alone. So, in addition, just to the money and to the power and the influence that is put upon them, there's also the ideology. So, who will break free? Who will be agile? Who will evolve? Who will adapt? They will be the ones rewarded. And
That's right.
also, who will be the fighter? Who will fight back against fascism abroad and at home? They will be rewarded. Now, speaking about Chicago and
Yes.
fascism, you are seeing a protest in Chicago against the genocide in Israel. And you've also seen J.B. Pritzker now somewhat meet the moment and realize, okay, you're going to bring the National Guard to Chicago. Well, I have a response to it. Tell us about Chicago, what you need to see and what you are seeing when it comes to resistance to Trump's march towards fascism, because Chicago now will join apparently DC, which is right here 20 minutes from here, and my home state of California as the normalization of the Gestapo.
I think one pattern you're seeing with Jahat, and I think anyone paying attention is seeing, is what do LA, DC, and Chicago have in common? They're all blue cities. They all have black mayors. And so at the onset, this is about white supremacy. This is about a small orange man who is offended that black people are excelling above and beyond what he ever could have done. And he's trying to knock them down a size to his size. It's not working. I think Brandon Johnson has had some phenomenal responses to Trump. Two, what we're also seeing is he's testing the waters to deploy the military to be more effective later on. And what he's hoping for is a violent response. And this is why I
Yep.
emphasize we don't need to engage in violence. They're going to. These fascist, ICE agents are going to engage in violence. We don't need to. Do not engage in violence. It's a losing battle. James Baldwin talked about this 50 years ago. If we bring guns, they've got more guns. It's a losing battle. We need to find different ways to disrupt the status quo, get in that good trouble that John Lewis talked about. But Chicago, by the way, has a history of white supremacist marches being beat down. When I was in high school in 1998, the KKK wanted to march in Cicero, which is a predominantly Latino area, and they got chased the hell out of town. In 2016, when Donald Trump was running for president the first time, he tried to hold a rally in Chicago and said, hell no, and chased him out of town. He had to cancel his rally. So whatever grievances he has is probably grounded in the fact that the KKK, his father's political party, and him himself were both chased out of the city because people here will not tolerate that crap. And I guarantee you they're not going to tolerate it this time. But my message to everyone around the country is his intent, understand his intent. It
Yep.
is to have an excuse to enact martial law, to enact the military and deploy the military. And, I was talking to an old
Insurrection
friend.
Act.
Yeah, the Insurrection Act. I was talking to an old friend who's just getting out of the military right now. And he said two things to me that I've been thinking about all day. One, he said that the military is a lot like the American general public, in that the folks who are more educated and more informed in the military understand and recognize that this guy is a tool and a fascist and they want nothing to do with them. He is playing on the ignorance of the people lower on the threshold, people, the 18, 19-year-old kid who think that this is cool what's happening. This is why it seems like the military supports him. The leadership really does not. And it's the lower end folks that do. Just like in society, we know that the more educated somebody is, the more informed somebody is on the issues, the less likely they are to support Trump. The second thing he pointed out to me is that he has friends who have worked for ICE for the last decade plus. And he said that where ICE agents are right now, and by the way, I have zero sympathy for them, is that they are being told if you don't hit these thresholds, if you don't hit these metrics, then not only are we going to terminate you, we're going to take away your pension, your health care, we're going to destroy your life as well. So they're being given the Sophie's choice type of situation as well. Now, I'm not saying I have empathy for them or I sympathize with them. I'm just saying that this fascist is being very comprehensive in trying to create the conditions of an autocratic, fascist, fear-based society. And the only way we're going to overcome that is by banding together across red and blue. This is not a red versus blue conversation to me anymore, Wajahat. And tell me if you disagree. For me, this is a class warfare. This is people who enjoy a democratic republic versus people who want a dictatorship. What do you think I'm being too provocative with that, or do you think that makes sense to you?
No, no, I'm the one who says that he is an authoritarian marching towards martial law. You can't be more provocative than that. And Crystal Ball told me, it was nice of her. She said, "You're on it since Trump term one. I was wrong," she said, "but you were right. You understood this guy. I came around during Trump too." This, this man is telling you his plan literally today. He's telling you. Last week when he was with Zelensky, he's telling you. He told you when he was running for office. You've seen Project 2025. You've seen the nationalization of the National Guard. You see Stephen Miller in that Wall Street Journal article. He sent those masked armed agents in LA,
Yeah.
in Home Depot and 7 because he wanted provocation. If you get a provocation, you get a Kent State moment, right? Kent State, where there was a mass shooting, where four college students were killed, nine were wounded in 1970, right? All you need is one unhinged person. To say something or do something, and then or one bullet to go off, and that's it. Then they declare the Insurrection Act. Who used the word insurrection? Not me. Stephen Miller last month to rationalize unleashing terror in LA. He said it's an insurrection. He's used the word invasion. He's talked about the Alien Enemies Act, right? To him, it's war. And he says we're under war against the invaders, who the immigrants. So if they would say immigrants, MS-13, Muslims, it doesn't matter. They can manufacture any boogeyman. The whole point is to consolidate power. And I
Yeah.
believe, like I said, for the 1,000 people who are joining us, Donald Trump is old. He's weak. He does not look right. That blotch on his hand, I don't know if you saw today, he tried his best to cover it up, Qasim. Have you noticed he's been seated?
Yeah.
They haven't gotten him standing up because of the cankles. My grandmother also had CHF. My grandmother had degenerative knee disease. My grandmother was also on Lasix. She lived with me until she died, and her legs used to get swollen with water, right? And so also like her, you had to go for IVs and go to the hospital, and she also got these blotches because they had to take these medicine, like this full dose of medicines, right? Lasix and others to, if you will, pump out the water. And when you pump out the water, what also happens, it affects your kidneys, but it's also a sign of CHF. And so him with the blotch, him with the swelling of the feet, him just looking at him. If you see a video of Donald Trump from like today, from like 3 years ago, folks, he ain't the same man, falling asleep. So I really believe that the corporate money in charge, the oligarchy, the Peter Thiels, the JD Vances, the Rupert Murdochs, folks, I'll give you another uh, a data point. Uh, right before the Wall Street Journal released its piece on Epstein and Trump, Rupert Murdoch met with JD Vance.
Oh, I don't know this.
And yep, he met with JD Vance. This is not like conspiracy theory was announced. He had a secret meeting with Rupert Murdoch, and then Wall Street Journal released the article, and then doubled down and released another article, and then released another article talking about Pam Bondi telling Donald Trump in May that he was in the Epstein report, which means that he's been lying and it's a cover up. So I think they see this guy going down. And I think they realize the cult belongs to Trump, not JD Vance. But if Republicans, if Stephen Miller, Russell Vought, and JD Vance, who, by the way, folks, has been groomed by Peter Thiel, he's been Peter Thiel's yes boy, the man who's been his employee, the person who's funded him his entire life has been Peter Thiel. If they can get their yes man, their puppet, JD Vance, as much power as possible, then they can enact the rest of their agenda. And people might think I'm crazy, and then I say I think you're crazy because, to quote 1984, the final command of Big Brother was to reject the evidence of your eyes and your ears. What more do you need to see? Qasim and here are telling you all data points, all facts.
Yep. Yep. And I've lost patience with folks who have been telling us for the last 10 years are overreacting. I think the first moment, we saw the Maureen Dowd column in the Washington Post, Hillary the Hawk, Donald the Dove, or relax, we're going to be fine no matter who wins. Two of the worst headlines ever written.
Yep.
I vividly remember who was a New York Times columnist who laughed in the face of Keith Ellison when he warned that Trump could win.
I
Her
remember
and
that.
George Stephanopoulos laughed in his face when he warned in July of 2015, this guy really can win. Her name's on the tip of my tongue, but her reporting has been fluff
It's
pieces.
that video clip. You all can see it. I remember.
Say that again.
It's a video. I'll try to find the video for you as you're
Yeah,
talking. Remember the
yeah.
video.
And it's one of those examples of where corporate media has been so complicit and so asleep at the wheel in refusing to hold Trump accountable. And again, to bring up Newsom again, I'm glad he got the ballot initiative on the ballot, so now I can praise him for his cutesy trolling of Trump. But the fact that media was more upset with him for trolling Trump than they are at the actual president for being a sociopath and tweeting the way he does is just an indication of how just completely unprepared this corporate media outlet, this now effectively state media outlet, is.
Maggie Haberman and George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, Maggie Haberman and George Stephanopoulos laughed in the face of Keith Ellison. Look, when a black man is telling you that this is what fascism and Jim Crow looks like, when you laugh in his face on live television, and by the way, I don't think they ever apologized or retracted. I just think it's poetic justice that Stephanopoulos and ABC then, 10 years later, capitulate to Trump and settle out, a $15 million lawsuit because they're too afraid of him. The same people that laugh in the face of Keith Ellison are now shelling out tens of millions of dollars because they were too cowardly to stand up for what was right in the first place. And this is the point I want to close with, that the most powerful institutions, these major media corporations, Paramount signing an agreement, an MOU of having a bias monitor, Columbia University capitulating and bending the knee, major law firms. I mean, Doug Emhoff's law firm, the second gentleman, while talking about how critical it is we stand with Trump, his law firm signed a $100 million MOU with the Trump regime to give them free pro bono legal support, which is absurd. All these major organizations, Target, bending the knee and getting rid of the DEI initiatives, losing $12 billion while they're at it. Folks, we can't rely on them. We need to rely on each other. And what I will say is that as horrifying as it is to see major law firms, major corporations, major media, major universities, as horrifying as it is to see them all capitulate, all of them pale in comparison to the collective strength of us working together. And that's where it is critical that we work together. And as you see people kind of waking up, people who may have been strong MAGAs in the past, waking up and realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe I was on the wrong side of history, as cathartic as it is to yell at them, get it out of your system, but then pull them in and say, it's time to get to work. We need all hands on deck. I think we can and we will get through this, but we need to be resilient. We need to not lose hope, and we need to take action now.
It's the world's worst, I told you so. It really is, folks. I get no joy from this. But I said a couple of years ago that all of corporate America would lay out the red carpet for fascism.
Yeah.
And I said that as a student of history because the same thing happened in Nazi Germany, and same thing happened with Mussolini. The same thing happens in Middle Eastern dictatorships. They're like, this will be good for business as long as it helps my bottom line. They like me. But what I also warn is fascists come for everyone.
Yeah.
And they're coming for these corporations. The more you bend the knee, the more they see you as weak. It's like a schoolyard bully. He beats you up and says, give me a buck. You give him a buck. He says, oh, you gave me a buck. Next day, I'll come back for $5.
Yep.
And they've all bent the knee. All of the tech billionaires bent the knee. Apple's bent the knee. Corporate law firms have bent the knee. Corporate media has bent the knee. They're not going to save you. They're not going to save you. They're not going to help you. It's going to be the rest of us. You cannot outsource this to the Avengers. The Avengers aren't coming. We're going to be the ones, no capes, who have to be the Avengers. And as Qasim said, what we have is the numbers. MAGA does not have the numbers, folks. And what I also tell people is America is a big country. Like literally, it's huge. And there's 340 million of us. It's really hard to implement this authoritarian vision across America the way they're trying to do it. And the way they're trying to do it is also very hasty, reckless, and sloppy. Thank God they're incompetent. Donald Trump is also not popular. He is underwater. He's at 38 or 40, right? Also, as I've said, the economy. Americans worship money more than anything else. The economy at the end of the day is the kryptonite of most people, and the economy is looking no bueno. The other thing that's hurting is Epstein. It's the only thing that's bipartisan in America where a majority of Americans, Republican, independent, or Democrat, want more on the Epstein files. And he's all up in the Epstein files, and it's dividing MAGA, right? So he is very weak and vulnerable, which is why he's tripling down on fascism. And I think which is why the people around him, the yes men, are encouraging him to do this because they realize King and Daddy, I don't know if he's going to die, but he doesn't look right. But this is where you need mass mobilization, people on the streets, and also people boycotting with their dollar. I want to give you some good piece of news is last week, the CEO of Target, who bent the knee to Donald Trump and went against DI and went against his base, people of color, he had to step down. Why? Because traffic to Target, due to the economic boycott organized by the people, has resulted in declining foot traffic. Meanwhile, Costco said, nah, we'll embrace people of color in DI. Foot traffic has gone up. I always want to remind people this country worships money. This worships money. And if you can do a lot with your dollar, and also Democrats love money and love votes. They're looking at all the numbers, folks. They're looking at all the numbers. And the more and more the leadership fails the moment, fail to embrace Zoran Mamdani, fail to take on the billionaires, fail to call out the oligarchy, the more and more they're setting themselves up for, because they're so arrogant, they don't realize it. They're setting themselves up to be primaried and culled. The last thing I'll say is in 2014, Republicans were like this as well. They told the base, your leaders are Kevin McCarthy, Paul Ryan, and Eric Cantor. Right here in Virginia, remember that? Eric Cantor was going to be the leader. And guess what happened? Eric Cantor got torpedoed by this nobody extremist, independent guy, David Bratt, who came in. And then you saw the Tea Party MAGA revolution, right? So the Democratic Party, much like the establishment, is running on arrogance and good vibes, and they're gonna get called, Qasim. They're in for a rude awakening. I think Chuck Schumer thinks he can hold on to leadership, like Charlton Heston with the rifle with his cold dead hands, and I think Jeffries thinks he could just come out and rap like Run DMC, and people will not, say anything. I think they're in for a rude awakening. I give the final word to you.
I'm getting a lot of folks in the comments asking what practical things they should be doing. And I'll make a shameless plug. Support me and Wajahat. We don't have a paywall. If you want to subscribe as a paying subscriber, do so. But free subscriptions are welcome as well, because we will continue to speak truth to power despite the pressures that we're facing. And we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. On your local level, get involved with your local politics. Know who your school board members are. Know who
Yes.
your city council members are. Know who your forest preserve people are. Get involved in your local politics. And if you can't find someone who you can support, then man, run for office yourself. I can tell you there's hundreds of thousands of seats up for election every year, and tens of thousands that go unchallenged. Run for, and then on the federal level, I'll be putting out this piece soon. I know Wajahat talks about this a lot as well, but support the candidates who are actually focused on working families.
Yep.
Support the candidates who are actually courageous enough to reject AIPAC money, reject corporate money, and who rely on we the people. We need to show up for them. There is no one magic silver bullet that's going to solve all this. But I promise you, as Wajahat said earlier, there are more of us than there are of MAGA extremists. If we work collectively, if we work consistently, if we work compassionately, we can and we will overcome this. That is my commitment to you to continue to fighting. I know Wajahat makes that same commitment. Let's get to work and let's do what needs to be done.
Yeah, folks, there's no haymaker punch that takes out fascism. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It's a long walk. All hands on deck. I want people to know that, so they aren't exhausted and they aren't disappointed. Take a rest, take break. It's a long walk. They've done generational damage, and it will take generational work to reform this country. Not restoration. We're done with restoration. Reformation.
Yeah.
Every single person has a role to play. Let me repeat this. Every single person has a role to play. And the reason why I say that is that oftentimes, I'm sure, Qasim, you get this, you ran for office. When I give speeches, I'm lucky enough to go to major platforms. I get asked, I'm a nobody. What can I do? And literally people say, I'm an average Jane. What can I do? And I'm like, I'm a nobody as well. We're all nobodies, but we're all somebodies to someone. In your home, the way you model rhetoric and behavior and conduct influences an entire generation as a parent, as a parental guardian. As Qasim said, on your street, in your church, in your synagogue, in your mosque, city council, school board. That's how Republicans took over. They didn't have the numbers. They just had organized zealotry, right? Moms for Liberty, bit by bit, school board by school board. We have the numbers. Every time we showed up, even in red states with numbers, we win. City council, school boards, hospital boards, right? Using your money, reward those businesses that do good and tell them, you stayed committed to DI. I reward you. F you, Tarjay. This country worships money. Democratic leaders who are doing the right thing, support them. Those who aren't, cull them. Run for office.
Right.
And then also I would say speak out as much as you can on social media, speak out. Do not be bullied. Speak out. Say the truth. Intervene. Hope is contagious, but so is courage, folks. Hope begets hope. And I'll give you one last example. I know this. Remember, we go with the bully. I was bullied as a kid, but then I also fought back against bullies. Once a bully sees one person stand up to him, that type of courage gets contagious and another person stands up. Then another person stands up. And bullies are inherently weak. They mask their insecurity through violence. So that's what Trump is. That's what MAGA is. We have the numbers. The more of us stand up, it'll be messy. It'll be dirty. It might be violent. But then we have to take control back and take the country back. Qasim, always a pleasure. Thanks for making the time. This is Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid, and the left hook with Wajhat Ali. We are terrible capitalists, no paywalls. Become subscribers. If you have a few bucks, give it to Qasim. If you have a few bucks after that, give it to me. If not, at least become a free subscriber. I got great guests tomorrow. I'll put it up on Blue Sky and on the Substack. I got Joyce Vance tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and I have two other guests who I'll finalize. But folks, be kind, be decent, take breaks when you need to take breaks, and please, oh please, don't be a fascist. Take care. Thank you, Qasim. Salam alaikum, man.
Aslam.